being stress and 2 being rest and recovery, okay? So everything around us is either adding stress to us or helping us de-stress, right? And de-stress means rest and recovery. So stress, everything that we do is either gonna cause stress or not. So I want you to think of, and I'm an artist here, but think of this bucket, okay? This bucket is a bucket of water, which is your individual capacity to handle stress, okay? So I have family, I have girlfriend, boyfriend, I have financial, I have homework, I have social media, I have all this stuff that's adding stress into my bucket, right? I'm pouring more water into this bucket. Does that make sense to everybody so far? Okay? Everybody has a different capacity to handle stress. Okay? The more you're exposed, typically, means that you can handle more, but it also means you could have a potential for things to not go right. Right? And so the way people handle stress is different. Okay? Some people lash out, some people need to be quiet, some people need to go talk to other people, some people need to go work out, some people need to meditate. How you handle stress is different, but there's always stress being added to you, right? Now, when this bucket gets all the way up here, that's not a good thing, right? Because that means you can't handle what's being imposed on you, okay? So then you have to start eliminating some things, or you have to find ways to handle stress better. Does that make sense to everybody? Some of the most common ways to handle stress are exercise, right? So when I handle stress, I get to have some holes in my bucket now that de-stress me, right? That allow the water level to now come back down here. Does that make sense to everybody? Some of that, for some of y'all, might be exercise, which the majority of the population is, which is why when you work out, you feel better, right? Some of y'all, it might be reading. Like for me, I de-stress by reading too, right? I go home, I'm quiet, and I just read, right? For some of you, it might be meditation. For some of you, it might be talking to a family member, whatever the case may be. It's not a right or a wrong way. It's just a way for you to understand how you can de-stress and how you can help rest and recover so the water in your bucket doesn't overfill. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay? But you have to kind of find your own individual ways to help you de-stress, right? Now, this is going to lead into a couple other things, which is this next one, which is topic number 2. When we train, when you play sports, when we work out and we're lifting heavy weights and we're getting ramped up, right? Okay? Who's ever heard of fight or flight? Okay? Fight or flight, anybody heard that? Your body goes into a fight or flight mode. Sometimes when that occurs, you don't remember anything because it was just like you went blackout. Who's heard of that before? Okay? When we get into fight or flight, what we're doing is ramping our central nervous system up, which is your brain and your spinal cord, and that's causing you like to have a lot of good emotion, but it could also have some bad stuff. So when we practice, we're ramping you up. When we train, we're ramping you up. All this other stuff. What we just did, so when you ramp up, it's called fight or flight. And it's also, from a scientific perspective, called your sympathetic nervous system. Okay, your sympathetic nervous system is triggered. Okay, I'm just gonna write sympathetic when we're getting ramped up and we're going, right? Sprinting, lifting lower body, jumping, all that stuff, your sympathetic nervous system gets moving, okay? When you rest and recover, right, it's called your parasympathetic nervous system. Who feels better after what we just did? Everybody, right? Zeke, do you remember when I first got here and I asked you, do you ever rest and recover? Remember when we talked about it on the court? I was like, we gotta get you to recover. So if you guys watch Zeke or some of these other guys play, they're jumping out the gym, they're training really hard, they are playing really hard, right? So if you work hard and play hard, you also need to recover hard, right? Remember the other day how we talked about recovery and we were talking about dollars, time, money into the energy, right? What we just did from this standpoint is we put some deposits in our bank from a rest and recovery standpoint, okay? And that's what we want you to do. So when we play really hard and we work hard, we also have to recover just as hard. Because if we aren't recovering and we're always in this standpoint, something is going to occur and it probably isn't going to be good. And I don't want that for any of you, right? So when we work hard and we play hard, let's make sure we rest hard too, so we can decrease stress, so we can come back the next day to do it over again, or over the course of a week, over the course of a season, a preseason, a postseason. Does that kind of make sense to everybody? So when we work hard, let's work hard and play hard, but let's also take our rest and recovery just as hard. How many of y'all know professional athletes? Okay, when they're working hard, right? If they're not, what are they doing? Big fucking chilling, right? Big fucking chilling, right? Because in order for y'all to be going all the time, you also gotta allow your body time to recover. Does that kind of make sense to everybody? So when we do that, let's make sure we're making good deposits into our bank accounts with nutrition and with recovery, so we can continue to do this and raise our reserves from what we talked about yesterday. The higher you raise your reserves, the less money / energy it costs you, and then you recover harder and you can operate at higher levels without it being as taxing. Does that kind of make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Everybody good from that standpoint? So let's rest and recover. Get into this. Some of you guys that are always going more often, okay? Because it'll allow you to do this better. Does that make sense? So if you're balling crazy all the time, like TK, I'm gonna use you as an example. TK is a very cool, chill guy, right? Right? He's super cool, he's super chill all the time, right? If TK got ramped up and started yelling, who would notice? Right? Right? If Zeke got super fucking quiet, who would notice? See the difference between the two? Okay? I might tell TK he needs to do this more. Because he's very here, which is okay. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. And I might tell Zeke and J.O. and some of the other cats, you need to do this a little bit more. Does that kind of make sense to everybody? Rest, chill, hang out. Now when we get on the court and when we train, we're all going to be here, right? But for a couple guys, maybe a little bit more. Does that kind of make sense to everybody? Does that kind of help out a little bit? Good? Good? Okay. That's all I have for you today.